This is Professional Launch with Rico Aladdin, positively connecting the less connected, bridging gaps, and building futures in the community. Professional Launch with Rico Aladdin.
Hello, professionals. My name is Ricot, and I'm the founder of Professional Launch and the host of the Professional Launch Show on WDOI here. Today, I have Cass County Sheriff Jesse Jahner here for a conversation about service leadership in law enforcement. Also, we'll talk about mentorship because this is what the show and our organization is about. Sheriff Jahner, thank you for being here today. It's a pleasure to have you, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Rico. I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you and visit with some of your listeners today, and maybe get some information out about our agency and myself a little bit. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I'm always curious when I meet with someone with your background. I see your bio. You have a list. You have a paragraph that is that long. I'm curious about what drew you into finding a career or looking for a career in law enforcement?
Sure, that's an excellent question. Like many people, law enforcement ran in my family, both law enforcement and military service. My grandpa was the sheriff in Emmons County in North Dakota back in the late 70s into the early 80s. And my dad was full-time in military, so in the Army National Guard in North Dakota. And at nighttime, he would do some part-time policing in the city of Strasburg, which is where I grew up until I was a freshman in high school. And so that public service really ran in my family, and I saw, what my grandpa was doing through his law enforcement career, and then my dad through both his military and that part-time law enforcement career that he was doing. So it always drew my interest. As I was, getting done with high school and looking into college, and the career that I might pursue, I always looked at the criminal justice field, but I knew that law enforcement isn't a profession really where you could maybe make a lot of money. And so initially when I started off in college, I started off in a business type background field, but very short into my college career, I went back to the law enforcement aspect and ended up getting my degree in criminal justice. And so it's just been something that's run in our family, and I'm certainly happy that I made this decision, and I enjoy the working for the community, for our citizens.
Wonderful. So how are you and the department doing with the job right now in the community?
Yeah, so I really have to give credit to our agency, the men and women of the Cass County Sheriff's Office. They all do an exceptional job. It makes my job easy. I've got great staff, great leadership team, and what else can you say about working law enforcement in North Dakota or in Cass County, because we have such high support for law enforcement in our community here. And it's regular when I'm out on a day-to-day basis in my uniform that people see me and thank me for my service, thank my staff for their service. And I know that doesn't happen in all parts of the country. And so, having our citizens really appreciate what we do on a day-to-day basis makes it easy to work in this community and be in law enforcement and really want to work hard for our community. As far as our agency, we're doing well there. We've got some challenges right now with trying to get our new jail pod online. We're nearing the end of that construction phase to where we can probably get that open maybe hopefully sometime in the middle of July. And that's been a struggle for our agency on the correction side of things, because our jail's been over capacity for the last 2 years. And so on a day-to-day basis, our staff in the jail has been making accommodations, strategically moving people around, moving people to other jurisdictions, working with the courts, working with our partner agencies here to really make room so that we can provide public safety in our community, because we always want to make sure that we have enough room to house those individuals who we think are a public safety risk to our community. And so that's been a day-to-day challenge, but it's been going on for the last 2 years. So, there's been times where our staff has been really stressed over there trying to provide that public safety piece, but they've just been doing an exceptional job day-to-day, moving people around to make space and help us work through the situation that we're in.
Okay, so the next question is, how is the sheriff department and the police department work together to ensure, safety and serve the community?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. A lot of people don't always know the differences between a sheriff's office and police department, so that's a good discussion in itself.
Yeah.
The main difference is as the sheriff, I'm elected by the people of Cass County, where typically the chief is appointed by the city council or the mayor, depending on how that structure is set up through their city. As the Cass County Sheriff's Office, we have jurisdiction over the whole county, so we can do patrol functions in Fargo and West Fargo out in the rural areas. But typically, we try to concentrate a majority of our law enforcement efforts out in the rural areas. Cass County is fairly large. It's 1,768 square miles. We have 27 rural cities. A number of those cities are are smaller. They don't have the funds to have their own police department. So if we don't go out there, then they don't have any law enforcement. So we try to concentrate our law enforcement efforts out in the rural areas. But if it gets busy in Fargo and West Fargo, then we come in and assist West Fargo PD and Fargo PD in whatever they're working on. And then as the sheriff, I oversee the jail. So there's one jail in Cass County. If Fargo PD makes an arrest, West Fargo, the Highway Patrol, whoever gets arrested in Cass County, they come to the Cass County jail. So, and then as far as our working relationship, we're very lucky here. Whether it's West Fargo PD, Moorhead PD, Clay County Sheriff's Office, we all work really well together. That doesn't happen in all parts of the country as well. I've gone to training in different parts of the United States and trained with other agencies where maybe the police department doesn't get along with the sheriff's office. And it always puzzles me. I always ask those individuals, what happened? Like, why don't you get along, And there's a variety of different answers. But in an area where we just have, a river in between us, it really doesn't divide us, but we all work together, and having that information sharing piece with intelligence and this just being able to share resources is very much a benefit to being able to keep all of our communities safe and keep a handle on criminal activity and who's doing what and things like that. So.
Wonderful. So I like the fact that the three you can collaborate with police from West Fargo, from the region, obviously. What do you attribute that collaboration to?
I think there's a number of things. I think number one, kind of what I mentioned to you before, with our community being so appreciative of law enforcement. I think all of our agencies really want to make sure that we're providing a good service, and we understand that the best way to do that is by collaboration and working together. Pretty much everyone that works in law enforcement in this area knows each other, because we've all, whether it's Chief Nielsen and Chief Helmick, Sheriff Empty, and we all worked in this area for several years. And so we work together in patrol capacities, investigative capacities, and we've come up through the ranks and now are in the leadership roles. And so we've all had an opportunity to get to know each other and, basically develop a friendship with each other. And I think that makes a difference as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. So from your bio, you have some experience as a correctional officer that helped lay the foundation for all your future roles. And also, you were on the SWAT team. Tell me, how did your time on the SWAT team influence your decision-making process under pressure?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I attribute a lot of my leadership capabilities to my time on the SWAT team, because much as you mentioned in those comments, oftentimes when Red River Valley SWAT is called to a situation, it's a situation that's obviously very dangerous and typically rapidly evolving. And there's a lot at stake. A lot of people could be hurt if the wrong decisions are made, and to include the suspect and the officers that are on scene. And so when you are on the SWAT team, you attend a lot of different types of trainings. That's monthly tactical training, firearms training, and you go away to a lot of different types of training that involve high-risk situations. And through that, you really learn how to mitigate risks when you're making decisions in those types of environments, and then just the experience of working through those situations. I mean, we don't want to have those situations, but through having them, you obviously gain the experience to see what works, what doesn't. After the fact, we always had debriefs and talked about what we thought went well, what we thought didn't go very well, and then you just learn and you grow from those things. And I think that's really helped me, I think, in a bunch of different facets of what I do now, whether it's a critical situation or just making some calculated decisions, whether it's in our jail with our correctional staff or out in the field in investigations and things of that nature. So I think it really pushes you into those leadership roles. And I was fortunate enough to be a team leader and assistant commander. So I was able to do some of that leadership through that team as well. So
Wonderful. So we're gonna take a short break here. When we come back, we'll talk about mentorship and professional development, and we'll continue with the conversation. We'll be right back. We are back today. We have Sheriff Jahner here in the studio for a professional launch, and we are talking about his professional journey and what others can use from his story to launch their careers. And this is what the show is about. Professional launch is about mentorship. It's about connection, creating those mentoring relationship, meaningful professional relationships that can help young professionals who are trying to figure out what they want to do for a career, so they can get some content, some advice from folks who are very successful in their field, and that we believe will help them. So now I find myself explaining why I have professional launch, why this organization exists, and why the show exists is really about providing resources or content that help others navigate their careers. So a big topic for me is mentorship and professional development. And so who were some of your most important mentors in law enforcement, and what did they teach you, if you have mentors?
yeah, well, I've had several. I mean, to sit and name all of them, it would probably take the rest of the time, right? So, but I think that my mentorship really started off with, as we already kind of discussed, my grandpa and my dad, who were good influences in my life, and kind of, again, me witnessing as they were working in the law enforcement field, in the military field, and providing that community or community attribute to public service. That obviously drew my attention, and there was a mentorship that way. And then really when I got in with the sheriff's office, what I did was I tried to look at people who were very successful within the organization and really try to learn how they got there, right? And through doing that and talking with them and kind of observing them on a day-to-day basis, really kind of helped me define what I needed to do within the organization to be successful. And then the other things that I did was really try to, as you looked at my biography there's a variety of different things I did, from corrections, patrol, to investigations, to special operations. I tried to put myself in positions where I could do a lot of different things in law enforcement, because each one of those things are a little bit different in different aspects, right? Even though they fall under the classification of law enforcement, the duties that you do day to day in those different pieces are different. And so each time that you do that, you learn different things about law enforcement, and you look at it from a variety of different angles. And so I tried to put myself in positions where I could learn as much as I could about the different facets of law enforcement, so that as I moved forward and wanting to become a leader in the organization, that I had experience in all of those ways. So that was really important to me. And so then each time that I looked at those different avenues, I looked at who was working those specific assignments, and then just kind of visiting with them and picking their brain. And they all would tell me, hey, if you want to do this, this is what you really want to concentrate on. This is the training that you need to go to get here, and things of that nature. So, I mean, there was a variety of different people that I looked up to in all those different pieces. And then for me, it was really just trying to learn as much as I could about each position, and then work hard to get there. And the biggest thing for me was working hard. I mean, I feel throughout my life, that's one thing that my dad instilled in me. I mean, when I went to college, I worked pretty much full-time hours and put myself through college. When I got done, I had $2,500 left to pay back, and it was because I worked the whole time. And then when I started at the sheriff's office, I started at the lowest possible position you could, and I worked myself all the way up to the top. And I think it was because I just put in the extra time, the extra hard work, visited with people, and really tried to expand my knowledge in the field as I moved forward.
Wonderful. So you say something that I really like here, because a few times I get to tell college students who are graduating that I hate to tell you, but you're not gonna get that big managerial position right after college.
Yep.
So you might have to start, at the very bottom and then work your way up. And one way you do that is by working hard and also, make yourself available
Mhm.
and do the extra hours. And so we just had a graduation season. Would that be something that you advise young professionals?
I would, well, especially in law enforcement, because
Yep.
law enforcement's unique in that we have a rank and file system.
Mm-hmm.
So as you start up, you can, you start at usually at the lower level, and then you try to work your way through promotions to advance in the field. And so in this type of a setup, a rank and file setup, most definitely that would be the case, because your supervisors are going to look to those individuals who are given the job, given the mission, and they do a great job doing. They don't complain about it. They go out, they do their job, and they work hard at it. And those are usually the individuals that rise to the top. Of course, there's other things that come along with that, right, in law enforcement, because you got to be personal, you got to be able to build strong community partnerships, relationships.
Yeah.
So there's that piece as well. But really, it comes down to those individuals who work hard and just kind of stick to their mission every day and do the things that's required in their current job position.
Yeah. So one thing, I noticed in your bio is you always raise to the level of leadership in your in your journey. So right now, as the sheriff, how do you personally mentor young deputies and rising leaders in your department?
Yeah, so we really encourage our deputies to, again, kind of what I already mentioned was, as you're getting started at the agency, we always tell them there's going to be a lot of different opportunities inside the organization. We ask people to, what are your interests in law enforcement? Do you eventually want to be an investigator? Do you want to be a supervisor in patrol? Do you want to go to the warrants and civil division and be a supervisor there? What is it that you want to do? And once you figure that out, then we encourage our staff to look for classes and training and in that direction. And then again, talk to those individuals who have been successful moving forward in those positions, and see what they did, to advance to those levels. So that's one thing. And then it's really, how do you work within the organization with others? Do you support the mission, vision, and values of the organization? Because really our mission, vision, and values are set by our citizens. As an elected official, I go out, I meet with our citizens regularly every Friday. I try to go somewhere out in the county and have breakfast with our rural citizens. And that's really my time as the sheriff to visit with them and see what do they want from their sheriff's office? What would they like to see from our organization? And through visiting with them, those key components are then placed into our mission, vision, and values of the organization. So some things like building strong community partnerships, customer service, keeping our citizens involved through the criminal justice process if they're a victim. Those are things, being visible out in the communities. That's what people want to see from us. That's the theme that I hear over and over. So those pieces are in our mission, vision, and value, and then we're really looking for people that are going to promote our mission, vision, and values. Are they doing that on a day-to-day basis? Because that's important to our citizens, and ultimately that's who we work for.
Right, wonderful, wonderful. So that's before we go to the next segment, you went right into community and leadership and service, which is our next segment. But I think we have about a minute and a half for the next question. You talk about mentors, how you mentor young folks. But what about on the mentee side? How do you suggest that people who want to find mentorship begin that conversation with a potential mentor?
Yeah, so through our agency, we have a number of different ways that people can do that, and number of different like secondary assignments where people can reach out within to other people inside our organization to find those mentors. We really encourage. We have a number of different things that we do that we do outside of our main job, as far as like we have a jail chaplain's picnic every year. And there's some other things like some hockey games and things like that we try to get people to participate in. And I think through that and people just collaborating, talking, working with each other, I think that's how people really develop mentors within our organization.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are even from just trying to help someone out through a critical situation, where maybe someone's been involved in a critical situation and they reach out to a PAC team member or a supervisor, and learn more about how they could do things better next time. I think that's also how they develop some of those mentors, because as people give our younger individuals who are just coming into the agency advice on how to handle certain situations, I think they have a tendency then to look up to that person and reach out to them more and more for advice as they move forward in the career.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we're gonna take a short break here. When we come back, we'll talk to the sheriff about communities, leadership, and service. We'll be right back. We are back today. We are talking to Sheriff Jahner, the Cass County Sheriff of Fargo here. It's a pleasure to have you. I know we tried to have the show before, but
Yep.
our schedule didn't work out. But I'm so glad you are here today. I really love this community, and this community has supported me in my professional journey, and doing this really is the joy that I cannot express sometimes. It's to see how much support that I've gotten from pretty much everyone who knows what I do, and it's really refreshing to know that. So for you, what does community engagement look like in your role as a sheriff?
Yeah, so as I kind of already mentioned, community engagement is extremely important for the Cass County Sheriff's Office or any law enforcement agency, right? I mean, bottom line is if we don't have trust from our community, it's hard for a law enforcement agency to exist.
Mm-hmm.
We already talked about the fact that we have really good community support here, but how do we expand on that? How do we foster those important relationships
Mm-hmm.
and things of that nature? There's a number of things that we do at the Sheriff's Office that I feel are really beneficial to that mission, if we want to call it that, and that is for out in the county, we have what's called an adopted community program.
Mm-hmm.
So each one of our deputies has a town that they work with, and what I mean by that is that they go to their city council meeting monthly, and they visit with them about their calls for service for the month and what those calls for service were, how we could potentially maybe curb some of those calls for service in the future, and work together and form crime prevention measures, tactics, things that we can do to help prevent crime in our smaller communities. So that's a very important program to us. We've had it for several years. Our rural communities really like that because they have a direct line of communication into our office. So that's one. Some of the other ones that we do is we have our school resource deputies.
Mm-hmm.
So we have our deputies out in our rural schools, and of course that builds really strong partnerships with our young individuals, or our children age individuals, and through that program, number one, it makes our younger children feel comfortable with approaching law enforcement, talking to them, reporting crimes, because sometimes there's situations, unfortunately, that happen at home that maybe children aren't comfortable talking about. And so once they build that important relationship with our school resource deputies, we found that sometimes things get reported to us that we need to look into to help those children. And then there are just a number of other things. We obviously are involved in a number of community picnics over the summer. A lot of our rural communities have rural community days in each of their towns. And so our deputies spend time in those cities during their community days, whether it's helping with the parade, helping with activities afterwards. And so we're just constantly looking for ways where we can make those important relationships and those collaboration pieces with our community members.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, I think that number one, it's really important for our existence and how we police our rural community. If we're not getting feedback from them, if they don't trust us, it's really hard to interact and solve crimes.
Yeah, you mentioned that. I mean, I was just about to ask you about building trust, because we can agree that if you watch the news or if you see on the internet, some communities do not have that good trust relationship with with law enforcement. How do you, as the leader of the sheriff department, build trust with the community while trying to keep us safe with situations sometimes that may not be as pleasant as?
Yep, that's a great question. I think what's been how we've been successful, I feel, is by being transparent with our community. And I think that goes a long way, whether it's us making a mistake in our organization and getting that information out to our community so they know what happened, and then how we're going to work through that situation so that we can get better as an organization and maybe not have that same situation occur again. Or just being informational to our community on why we do certain things that we do, whether it's through training, if it's a I don't know, maybe we talk about the taser, how law enforcement utilizes a taser, right? And something as basic as that, educating our community on information like that and how we train. We have also offer our Citizens Academy every fall, and that's important to us and how we outreach to our community, because we invite people to come in and spend several weeks with us to learn about our organization, learn about the resources that we have, the equipment that we use, and things of that nature. So I think it's all of those things. Certainly, if we're closed off and we don't let the public know what we're doing, why we do certain things that we do, that I think fosters a distrust with the community, and we certainly don't want that. So I think it's just transparency and informational and getting information out to our community and really letting them know what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Wonderful. So, I'm always curious about the challenges that professionals face in their line of work. Now, for you, as a leader of an organization like, the Sheriff Department, what can you share a challenging situation that you faced as a leader, and how did you navigate it?
Well, we have day-to-day challenges.
Okay.
We have a very large organization, right? So, I think that most people don't know that. I mean,
Yeah.
we have, when we get our new pod opened up here, we're going to have approximately 277 employee positions.
Yeah.
Now, not all of those are full, but if they were, that's how many employees we'd have. Right now, we have a little over 247. So we have a large organization. So different challenges that I deal with can be anything from personnel challenges, mistakes that we make, or community challenges, such as narcotics being trafficked into our area, overdoses, right? Homelessness, things like that. So there's a variety of challenges. Some of our bigger challenges over the past couple of years have been the overcrowding at the jail and being able to provide public safety with it being overcrowded, and making sure that I'm working to collaborate with our commissioners so that we could get this new pod built, so that we can continue to provide public safety through having the availability of incarceration if we need that. So that's been one of the big challenges, and then that's obviously snowballs into, we got to hire people to staff that, right? And right now, and I'm kind of seeing a little bit of turn in this right now, but there for a while it was hard to attract people into the law enforcement profession. All of our agencies were somewhat struggling, and so that's been a challenge. So working through that, and making sure that we can get people in the door to work at our agency, and then the community challenges, like I mentioned, where we're, whether it's, like I said, homelessness, overdose, narcotics trafficking into our community, those things.
Yeah, so you mentioned the overcrowding of the jail. What has been the top reason why that caused that?
Yeah, there's a number of reasons. Obviously, our population growth is going to be one, right? I mean, our community is growing very fast, and we have growth. We're going to have some problems that come along with that.
Yeah.
With that growth, and also our agencies here have been expanding their resources to police those areas. So, the city of Fargo has added more officers. West Fargo has. We have, and when you have more officers on the streets, there's going to be more arrests made. So those are contributing factors. Then you're going to have the narcotics and things like that are being trafficked into the community. That can drive crime numbers as well. So it can be even as much as the way that the courts are sentencing people. Are they sentencing them to longer stays at the jail? And if that's the case, then that can back things up. We've got a situation in our state right now where our pen is currently overcrowded, and that causes issues for us back here, because individuals who are sentenced through the court process to a year and a day of incarceration, they go out to the state pen. Well, if the state pen is full and we have people back here that are sentenced to that year and a day longer or more, and we can't get them out there, then there's, that pushes back on our population here if we can't get them out to the state pen. So there's all those factors are contributing factors to our jail being overcrowded right now.
One more question before we go to break. So, is it hard to recruit new officers?
It was over the last 2 years.
Okay.
We've done a number of things at our agency to obviously work through that situation. One is the state at the last legislative session had a Back the Blue grant, and that grant was supposed to be used for recruitment and retention of officers. And so we used some of those funds for retention, and then we used some for recruitment. And through that, we put together a recruitment video. We put together a recruitment team, a team of individuals that's going out to a number of career fairs regularly. Not just in our area here, but the surrounding states, Minnesota, South Dakota, and they're going out and reaching out to individuals. We've got our school resource deputy program where we're trying to foster in our younger children maybe a career in law enforcement at some point. And then the biggest last piece has been the collaboration with myself and our commissioners to get some of the pay increased for our correctional officers, because there for a while it was kind of low. And they were very supportive of that, and that's made a huge difference in getting people in the door. It's just increasing that pay a little bit.
Wonderful, wonderful. We're going to take another break here. When we come back, we'll talk about advice for young professionals. But before we go to break, one quick message. There's a Flag Day on June 13 here. All are welcome. You can stop by the Flag Day here and join them there will be free lunch for veteran law enforcement and first responders. So spread the word to it.
A flag to think of all of our, like you said, first responders, law enforcement, military.
Yes.
And do that. I've attended that event before in the past, and it gets very busy, and we're very grateful for the support.
Wonderful, wonderful. We'll be right back. We are back today. My guest is Sheriff Jahner, and we are talking about his career, his professional journey, and also talking about the challenges of his position as a leader in the community and how he's trying to build trust with the community to be able to protect us. Now, this show, I talked about what the show is about before we get to the last segment of the conversation. This segment is really about advice for young professionals, what they can do to launch their careers. But I have a quick message for everybody who's listening, everybody who's going to listen to this. Professional Launch is a non-profit organization, and therefore we heavily rely on guests, friends, and partners to keep our operation going. So right now, if you go on our website, professionallaunch.org, you can find all the ways you can support us, support our operation, and support the development of our mentoring platform so that we can, build this together, make it a resource for young professionals who are launching their careers. Advice for young professionals. So, looking at your bio, you have earned several prestigious awards and commendation. How do you stay grounded in your work?
Well, really, those things are just a matter of going out and doing your job every day. We're just lucky enough to have a process in place where people can be recognized for the good things that they do. Those were the things that just happened throughout my career and positions that I was in to be able to achieve those. So certainly grateful for that. And I think that it is in any profession. I think it's good. We hold a yearly award ceremony, and I think it is good to recognize what people are doing, whether it's in our organization or anyone else's business or organization, to recognize the good things that your employees do throughout their careers. I think that can help really motivate some people. And I know not everyone expects that, but I think it is, even the ones that don't expect it, I think sometimes it's good to recognize their hard work.
Oh, wonderful. So for young professionals struggling with discipline or direction right now, what advice would you give that young man or young woman?
Yeah, I think for law enforcement, for us, we have people that are going to college and kind of wondering if they want to go into law enforcement, and if they do, they're maybe not sure what type of law enforcement. Do they want to do state? Do they want to do local? Do they want to do federal? And all those questions can become a little tricky. And sometimes it's hard to figure out exactly what you want to do because they're all a little bit different. I always encourage people to maybe do some job shadowing. Like with our agency, you know, if someone's interested in working in the jail, but they're not really sure what the day-to-day activities in there or what the job duties would entail while they're working in there, we invite people to come and take a tour of the jail and look and see, you know, check out what we're doing in there every day. If someone wants to do something in patrol or investigations, we encourage people to job shadow that. If they're not sure, they can come in and visit with someone at our organization, and someone can describe to them, you know, how investigations differs from patrol. So in our field, I think that's really important that people know, because when I was getting into law enforcement, I knew I wanted to do law enforcement, but I wasn't sure exactly where that would take me. And so as you saw in my bio there, I started off in the jail. And initially when I got out of college, I thought maybe I wanted to go to the FBI or DEA right away. And sometimes it's hard to get into those without having experience. But I started in the jail, and that took me in a little bit different direction. I really enjoyed what I was doing. I really enjoyed the sheriff's office. I liked the fact that I get to work in a local area and really build those extreme important partnerships that we talked about and collaborations with our community. And this job allows me to do that every day, and that's really important to me. That's one of the pieces of the job that I really enjoy.
Wonderful. So, what do you wish someone had told you when you first started out in law enforcement?
Let's see. That's a good question. You know, I can't really pinpoint one thing, other than like we talked about before, where I just kind of talked with a lot of people about different pieces of the job. Because it's just such a different job where there's just so many different opportunities and just different pieces of the job that you can do. You know, it's not like going into, not that this is bad by any means, so hopefully no one takes that as that, but if you're going into like mechanics or something, right, and then that you kind of know that's going to be your job, and you might do different, you know, work on a vehicle, do different things from day to day on as far as what you're building or fixing on that vehicle. But in law enforcement, there's just different avenues that you can take. And so I think just learning along the way as I went and talking with people to really figure out what I want to do would be my advice if someone's going to go into this career.
Wonderful. So we have about 1 minute and a half to talk about the next question. How can the next generation of leaders carry forward with a spirit of service, you know, giving back to the community?
Well, I think it starts at a young age, really getting involved in your community. Whether, you know, while you're in school, maybe helping out with nonprofit organizers, things like that, and really learning about what your community has to offer. But I think getting involved in those things as a young person, I think that really helps build that community service piece and wanting to help however you can. That's what I would encourage people to do if they really want to become involved in their community.
Wonderful. Sheriff Jahner, thank you so much for being on the show today. I always find myself trying to pick and choose what to ask my guests because they are so accomplished in their line of work. Your bio is really a massive, it's a big paragraph. You have been in a lot of roles, leadership role in your career, and today we didn't even scratch the surface of your professional journey. And so, but I do thank you so much for being on the show and share advice on how young professionals can get into law enforcement, or even how are you building trust with the community and while you're trying to serve and protect us. We thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me on, Rico. And for anyone out there listening, if there is someone that wants to get into law enforcement, I always invite people to come to our organization, sit down and visit with someone from our staff and see if we can get you pointed in the right direction or maybe answer some of those questions for you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being on. Now, this is the part that I tell you. It's up to you to make today a great day. Have a great day.